So today I plan to post my video about the easiest Taco Tuesday recipe of all time. I was really excited about it because a lot of you on Instagram Live have been really excited about my Taco Tuesday recipe. However, there's something else that we need to talk about, something that came up online. I want to talk about this because truth is so important. A couple of months ago, Daniel and I watched a heart-wrenching documentary called I Am Jane Doe. It is not for the faint of heart. I do not recommend that you watch it unless you are 18 and older. This was a documentary that was, oh my goodness. This film shared the stories of young women who had been sold into human trafficking and into sex trafficking via a website called Backpage. Backpage was one of the biggest facilitators of human trafficking, of the trafficking of young girls, of the trafficking of women, of even the trafficking of men, of human trafficking in our country today, which is obviously a huge injustice to the dignity of the human person, to the dignity of women. Backpage was not a good place, and last week it was finally shut down. There have been many people for the last number of years fighting to get Backpage shut down. People in politics, these young women and their families who had been victims of Backpage and have been sold on it hundreds and hundreds of times. And finally it was shut down, which is a huge victory in the fight against human trafficking, in the fight against sex trafficking, in the fight against the exploitation of women and children. And now here's where it gets really interesting, and this is like so unbelievable to me. The Women's March, which happens every January, which claims to be this pro-women event and this pro-woman movement, this feminist movement, tweeted about Backpage being taken down. This is what their tweet said. They retweeted a tweet that said, "The crackdown on Backpage is not about ending trafficking. It's motivated by the patriarchal notion that women should not be free to do what we want with our bodies." And they themselves, the Women March, tweeted, "The shutting down of Backpage is an absolute crisis for sex workers who rely on the site to safely get in touch with clients. Sex workers' rights are women's rights." If this isn't the definition of being completely and totally and utterly deranged, I don't know what is. I think, there's a lot of facets to this. I think that, trying to sell prostitution or being a sex worker as female empowerment is one thing. Labeling yourself as pro-woman and saying that you want what is best for women and trying to get a site back up, saying that it would be a good thing to get it back up for sex workers. That has been the avenue of torture and abuse and the selling and exploitation of thousands of women, if not tens of thousands of women, is just a level of insanity that I thought wasn't even possible. When anything is stopped or ended that facilitates human trafficking, that facilitates the exploitation and abuse of women, that is a step in a positive direction. And yet the Women's March is considering only this group of people, these sex workers, and pushing their agenda about autonomy over our own bodies. The Women's March, and this is so apparent in this text, in these threads that they're making, that they are so obsessed with fighting for the autonomy over our own bodies, that we have every right to do whatever we want with our own bodies. It's my body. I can do what I want. I can sell it for sex if I want. That they completely disregard the 14-year-old girls that are being sold through that website every single day. That to me is disgusting. That to me is just so far beyond what I can ever comprehend, that anyone who calls themselves pro-woman would say that Backpage being taken down is not a good thing is unbelievable to me. There are many other facets to this discussion. People saying, women should be able to do whatever they want with their bodies. They should be able to be sex workers. How about we empower women to get out of prostitution? How about we empower women to escape sex trafficking or to not have to sell their bodies for profit in order to take care of their families, in order to take care of their children? How about we empower women appropriately to believe in their dignity, to not have to sell themselves for money in order to make a living in their lives? How about we empower women properly? And we as women, it's so hard because the culture is constantly telling us how to think and what to think as women. The culture is constantly telling us what we should believe as women, what we should fight for as women. And it's so important that we step back and think for ourselves. We get to ask ourselves that question in regards to every woman's issue, whatever that issue might be. Is this good for women? I always lead with that question, and I always evaluate it and think for myself. The Women's March has no idea what is good for women, and that is crystal clear through this tweet and their supportive back page, which has exploited, tortured, and sold so many thousands of women just like you and me. We have to talk about the truth because the culture is not going to feed us truth, and that's blatantly obvious day in and day out. So we have to search for truth, and we have to talk about what is true. And I myself will continue to fight for the dignity of women. I know this was heavy, I know this was serious, but these women's issues are so important to me. You guys know how important you are to me, and you know how important every woman is to me. So I'll be back with my Taco Tuesday recipe next week. That's all for today. Bye.